I've experienced what would be like systemic trauma. At 32, I end up with a breakdown, end up in the ER. My body just said no. Another thing that I've done through all this life experience, I've learned to adapt. I may have gotten, A pluses in all these economics and business management stuff, but I had no idea about life.
Welcome to the I Decide Darlings podcast. I'm Erin.
And I'm Lisa. We are moms, wives, best friends, entrepreneurs, and authors of the book, I Decide, the happy little guide to living your best life. Pull up a chair, grab a glass of wine, and get ready to talk all things health, success, loss, money, family, and everything in between. These two besties won't leave anything off the table.
So get ready to laugh, cry, hear the tips, tools, and stories to give you the success you crave, the life you adore, and the future you deserve. You are listening to the I Decide podcast.
Welcome back, everyone, to the I Decide Darlings podcast. So excited to be here with you. As always, I am Erin Lopez.
And I'm Lisa Cox. I like that little song.
I know. I don't know where it came from. It's kind of my mojo these days. I'm like, just go with it. Okay.
I love it.
Oh my gosh. Well, guess what, guys? We have another good one for you guys today with somebody that we have been talking about and we have lots of questions for, and you guys are going to totally vibe and dig with her. And I have the honor of introducing to you today our guest, Ana Maria. I just want to say her name. Ana Maria is not your typical standard template kind of life coach. You had me at life coach. She is a healing strategist with a thirst for problem solving and a passion for root cause solutions. She herself has been in the eye of the storm and knows exactly what it is like to be eager for relief when drowning in despair. Her list of credentials is very long. A few of them are healing trauma and addiction, interpersonal neurobiology of trauma resolution. She is a certified nutritional therapist, amongst many other things. She is still healing herself, which I adore. She is helping others along her journey with, wait for it, no BS and no cookie cutter molds. So Ana Maria, we love having you today on the I Decide Darlings podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
I know, right? It's kind of the theme today, like, well, again, we're so happy to have you. We have so many questions. We want to hear a little bit about who Ana Maria is, how you got to where you are today, because after looking into it, your story is nothing short of amazing. Like, you came from a communist country. I mean, if I say this right, you witnessed political revolution, and now you're here in the US. So Ana Maria, we would love to hear a little bit about your story and who you are and how you got here.
Well, thank you for having me. And yeah, it is quite a bit of a story. So I'll share it now. And it's interesting to share it now with the insight and retrospect that I have from doing this healing work for the past 11 years. So I was born in Romania. It was a communist state back then when I was born in 1981. And now I know that I've inherited high sensitivity. So I'm also a highly sensitive person through my mom's lineage, and also an empath. So having started life early on in a politically unstable country, I've experienced what would be like systemic trauma. I've been exposed to pretty bad emotional and physical abuse in a military communist daycare. So my parents sent me there because during those tough communist times, there wasn't a lot of food available for the population. So they knew that in military organizations, in this case, they needed a daycare, they had food. But the people running the daycare were completely vile. So, my childhood started, like, my mom told me that I was like super independent, super cheerful, super self-assured. And one of those kids, like at 2 years old, I'd go to bed, turn the lights off, no need for anybody soothing me. to completely, after a year and a half in that terrible daycare, being kind of broken down, like I became fearful and anxious and timid and all those things. So from there on, because I was highly sensitive, I think it really impacted me. That experience must have impacted me. Then at the same time, my parents growing up in that dysfunctional system, being dysfunctional themselves, the household was chaotic too. And then the revolution hit in 1989 when I was 8 years old. So I witnessed a lot of terrible things on TV. Family members got, shot to death, all sorts of stuff. Had to stay on the floor of the apartment for like the entirety of the revolution because they were shooting at the windows in apartment buildings. So you could just walk around, go to the bathroom and get killed. So that was when I was 8 and it felt like it lasted forever. I still don't know exactly how many days it lasted, but after that was done with, my dad decided we need to go to America. It was his childhood dream. So immigration in the United States, I don't speak the language. It was a little hard to say the least. But all my life, I've basically kind of taken what was coming at me and dealt with it in the best way I could, not knowing that there's things such as adverse childhood experiences that kind of it's kind of like the soup that your formative and developmental years form in. And I didn't know that at some point later on that will come for evaluation. I like to call it that way. So at 32, after obviously not learning proper attachment skills, not learning boundaries, and having gone through everything I just talked about, I had also entered a toxic relationship marriage. So everything was just, high stress job. The boss was like my dad. Marriage, the ex-husband was like my dad, and all the other people that were, abusive throughout my life. So then at 32, I end up with a breakdown, end up in the ER. My body just said no. And that was my I decide moment. Like you guys, the name of your podcast, something had to change.
So can I go back a couple steps? This story, first of all, breaks my heart for what you've been through, but it's also very powerful for where you've come. And so we're so grateful you're sharing it with us. But so just to clarify some things that some people may not fully understand, and I'm not sure that I do 100,000%. Saying that you started out highly sensitive and an empath. Will you explain those terms to us? Because I think I understand an empath is where you take on the feelings of other people around you as your own. But will you explain to us what you mean when you say you were highly sensitive? Because I think about when I hear that, I think, well, we're all sensitive, but there's a difference. There's a big difference in what you're explaining to us.
Yeah, there's a book by Elaine Aron called The Highly Sensitive Person, and she has a test in there for 22 questions, I think, where it's things like, do things suddenly rattle you? Do loud noises and loud lights overwhelm you? Would like a wool scratchy sweater, make you feel uncomfortable and you can't tolerate it? Are you very aware of the way people feel in your environment and you try to accommodate them by giving them a pillow or changing their seat around? Or are you hypersensitive to other people's moods and their moods affect you? So you're basically, I don't know, I kind of see it as, I thought it was a trauma response at the beginning, that I'm hypersensitive to everything. And then a few years into my healing journey, I came across this term from Elaine Aron, the highly sensitive person. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like that. My mom's like that. And then it's the same way your eyes are brown or blue. This is just a brain nervous system trait that you are just more heightened in sensitivity than others. And 20% of the population has it, and it's inherited. It's through our family lineage that way.
Okay. Side note, some people could use a little bit more of that in their life. But
I was going to say, and there's the opposite of what you just explained.
They can't read a room ever. But so on a serious note, so when you were back as a child and in this unbelievable situation, where you're being shot at during a revolution through the windows of your own apartment. How did you get from there? Like specifics, just curiosity. I don't know how a refugee in that situation gets to America. Like, how did your dad get you here?
I don't know. I was 10 years old when we left, so I have no idea what he did. He just
Like airplane?
airplane, yeah, airplane.
Okay.
And then once you landed, you apply for refugee
You
status.
apply. Okay.
Yeah, but then I don't know what was happening politically back then. After 3 years of extensively paying lawyers and everything, they said that since Romania is not communist anymore, you don't have a reason to be a refugee. You have to go back to Romania. And my dad said, there's no way I'm going back there. So that's when we immigrated to Canada, to Toronto, Canada.
Okay.
So right when I finally settled roots and I was finally like adjusting to the language, making friends, finding a sense of home again, we had to uproot everything and move to Canada.
So where was that before Canada? When you came over, where to the United States, where did you go? New York City. Okay, sorry, I missed that.
Yeah. And then you go to Canada, and you don't speak the language.
Well, no, I was already good with languages. Another thing that I think I developed, like perfectionist, needed to perform very well. So I've always been very good with languages. So I won like the English as a second language award when I was in New York City. And then I went, and in Canada, I was fine with English. And then when I married my ex-husband, who's from Mexico, I learned Spanish in 3 months.
So highly sensitive, highly intelligent.
Yes.
Highly intelligent.
And highly adaptive. I think that's another thing that I've done through all this life experience. I've learned to adapt quickly. And sometimes, and this is where high sensitivity comes in, and this is where this was kind of like my moment of truth. You force yourself into adaptation. You kind of take on this burden enduring mentality, and you just have to adapt because things are outside of your control. Like everything that was happening, I couldn't just walk away. And then you don't know that you can say no, because you can't say no when you're like 4 years old in daycare and they're threatening you with like injecting you with a syringe or cutting your tongue off or whatever. Like we had the scissors and the syringe on the table in daycare as threats all the time. Like I can't go anywhere. Like I depend on somebody taking me out of there. So I've learned like subconsciously a burdening enduring mindset, and that I can't say no. Even if I do, nobody's going to listen. And then at 32, when I had my breakdown/breakthrough, I learned that the body can say no.
So when you had this breakthrough at 32, like tell us a little bit deeper about, because is that you obviously were divorced, or that's when you knew you needed a divorce?
Yeah, we separated for a little bit, but then we got back together like for a couple of months, and then we got back together because we tried to make it work using the new things we were learning, or I was learning.
Had you already kind of gone down that path of life coaching and no? Okay.
That came. So that was 11 years ago, and I've been doing this work for 6 years. I'm going to go into my 7th year now.
Awesome.
So yeah, because once I learned that, like I went to university for economics and business management. Of course, I graduated, like I did 1 year, and then I left my parents' home. I was in Michigan, left, went back to Toronto, and then came back. But knowing I'll be in the same household with my dad, I was like, I cannot do 3 more years living with him under the same roof. So I did 3 years of college in a year and a half, and graduated cum laude, because it had to be performance, top of the line. Like I, always a perfectionist and performing that way. But nobody ever taught me about any of this stuff. So I may have gotten, A pluses in all these economics and business management stuff, but I had no idea about life. So then when I had my breakdown/breakthrough, and then I started learning about this, like I was the one who brought to my therapist, hey, did you know there's an adverse experiences adverse childhood experiences study. Hey, did you know about highly sensitive stuff people? Did you know? So when I started learning all this, I'm like, we should have been taught this in high school. We should have been taught this, like, I don't know, everyone should have a manual as they're growing up. And it just became my passion and obsession. And that's why I just shifted everything and started doing this.
I love that you say that, because, you know, Lisa and I always say in our business, like, we're partly successful because of our obsession, you know, like we're obsessed with helping others, you know, live out a healthy, happy life. So I think that when people are able to find their obsession with boundaries, then they're able to succeed. So again, sorry, I'm kind of obsessed with this. So when you, when you had the breakdown through at 32, that's when you said, like you said, I decide, but is that when it kind of flipped that you said, okay, one, I think it's super interesting because I think we always talk about how our childhood always affects our choices. So you made mention that your ex-husband like was kind of like marrying your father, right? But then I'm just curious, I'm just so obsessed and curious to know, like, when you decided like this is your path, your calling of being obsessed with helping others, was that due to your breakdown?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Okay.
Because what happened is, I was, like I said, I felt like I've been burdening during and adapting my whole life, hoping for better or hoping for some sort of a relief somewhere. And not only didn't it come, but then my body broke down. So because I didn't have the right life skills and tools, because nobody taught me in the household I grew up in, to make better choices. So I got myself deeper and deeper into life decisions that were dysfunctional. So I should have quit the job because of the boss I was working for. But no, I wanted to prove to him that I can do it and over achieve. And of course he's like, damn, this is perfect. Keep coming.
Yeah.
So burnout right there. Same in the marriage, same with everything. So it comes a point where when my body broke down and I was in the ER and I had severe tremors and shakes, and I thought it's like a magnesium deficiency. And they're like, your blood work is perfect. And I'm like, well, what do you mean it's perfect? Like, I'm literally shaking and I can't stop. And it's not like, I'm not telling my body to shake, it's doing it on its own. I had panic attacks my whole life since the daycare. And then I had a panic attack. And then that time I started shaking, which I'd never had that symptom before. And I didn't know what happened. So my body basically just broke down. And the ER guy said, so I got lucky in a way, because he said, go on medication, antidepressants, and see a psychotherapist. And I was like, what? Like, I need a magnesium infusion, not that. And then, but that was all he said. So I'm like, okay, there's no other answer. I'll do that. So I went and I got lucky again, because the psychotherapist I started seeing, which was like 11 years ago, she was trauma trained. So she's like, you have been diagnosed with like a panic disorder or all these things, insomnia and whatnot. But what you really have is complex PTSD from developmental trauma, when I told her my story. And this wasn't like a hashtag back then. Nobody talked about it. So I got really lucky that I found this therapist who was able to kind of like get to the root cause for what my issues stemmed from, for me to be able to see myself in a different light. And that's what I hope for everyone else, to be able to see themselves in a different light. And, you know, like I always say that nobody came to save my inner child, and my body said no. And that was kind of like a way of it saving itself by me reaching out for help. But I realized there was not a lot of good quality help out there. And I decided eventually, because I was like, you said, and I said, so obsessed with it, that I want to help everybody's inner child who's willing to heal themselves and work on themselves, because it is possible. You don't have to live like this. And if you could even prevent a breakdown or get through a breakdown, that's a win, in my opinion.
Oh my gosh, this is so powerful. I just hope everybody out there will write down a question to themselves, and that is, am I in a burden enduring mindset? Am I enduring burdens that I shouldn't be? I mean, because I feel like that could lead to so many answers within each one of us. You know, I just feel like we see the people that get sick. We see it happening. We see the zombies walking around that just are living this unhappy, burdened life, but yet they're not making any changes until the breakdown. And your experience took you to that point, unfortunately, where you were in the hospital, but then now you can teach all of us, how for that not to happen. I think that is an incredible statement, burden enduring mindset. And I'm sorry that you were in that mindset, but it's so incredible to see what you've done from there. So when you're when you're coaching, what are some of the first things that you do with your patients, clients that get them started in this process?
Yeah, I like to call them clients because when I used to be called a patient, it made me feel like I'm unwell. And even though I was unwell, it was something that I didn't want to identify with. So I'm
That makes
very
sense.
picky when it comes to that. And then what I do is I do a lot of exploring questions. So I just ask questions and I zone in. Every time I'm in a call, I have to keep looking at the clock to make sure I don't go over time because I enter a complete zone of focus where I'm kind of like in them. And that's kind of like my empathy stuff comes in, but I use it proactively now. I'm not absorbing other people's pains, just getting into toxic relationships or friendships, that sort of stuff. I'm now using it with my clients where I can literally feel what they're feeling. And sometimes I've been called psychic, but it's not that. It's just hypervigilance of the traumatic upbringing I've had that's making me so in tune with little details that I can tell certain things and where I should dig deeper. I could I do video calls. This is how, or in person here in Naples, Florida, but I could see body language. So I know when I gear my questions based on their body language, based on their facial expression, based on a sigh, and using body cues, because that's what I learned ended up like when my body said no. I learned that the body is super highly intelligent and it speaks kind of like our unconscious mind. So I use that in order to be able to gear and navigate my questions. And I just get into their life in their head, and I'm able to create and cater certain solutions and tools that are only specific to them and will never apply to anyone else. Because I always say that your healing is as unique as your fingerprint, because your experience and your perception of your experience is done through your own personal mind. And you could have two twins growing up in the same household, and they're going to have different illnesses or relationships, because it all depends on their interpretation of the circumstances that they were exposed to. And your mind is your own, really. So then your experience is your own and unique.
Hey there, darlings. We wanted to take a quick moment to talk to you about something super exciting.
That is right, Lisa. And if you're inspired by any of our conversations, but you still feel like you're stuck in place, trapped in guilt and in self-doubt, and in the feeling that you are not enough, but you are still yearning for more time, more self-confidence, and more fulfillment in your life, this is just exactly for you.
We would like to introduce to you our transformative course, Get Unstuck in 10 Days. In which you'll gain practical steps and knowledge to break through those barriers holding you back and start living the life you truly deserve.
Absolutely, Lisa. Whether you're looking to switch it up, switch your mindset, kick those bad habits to the curb, or set meaningful goals aligned with your values, this course will open new doors just for you.
Plus, by enrolling in Get Unstuck in 10 Days, you'll not only get access to valuable lessons and resources, but also join a supportive community of like-minded individuals on a journey to personal growth and empowerment.
So what are you waiting for? Head over to our website at idecide.io and enroll in Get Unstuck in 10 Days today. Let's make those positive changes together.
And don't forget, darlings, stay tuned for more insightful conversations right here on the I Decide Darlings podcast. Thanks for listening.
I'm curious too. I mean, your story is so powerful and unique that I'm curious just to, without naming names or anything, like I'd love to hear some examples of some of your clients, because I feel like as a society, we go to the extreme. Like we think, well, I don't know that I have this amount of issues when, of course we do, and I think many things that you've said, it's the asking questions. I don't think enough people ask questions to say, tell me more, because we're all just go, 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 go and burn out. And so people can relate to what you do and what you provide and the beauty of what you're doing. Like who are some people that you do work with? Again, no names, no anything, but just so we can relate to, because reading everything that you've done, and your Instagram, by the way, is like on point and so good. I'd love to hear a little bit about, because again, I read some of your stuff and I think we live in such a crazy world that I don't want people to think they have to have a severity to have somebody amazing like you in our lives.
So go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I know that was long-winded, but hopefully it made sense.
No, it totally makes sense. And so my clientele is predominantly women, and I want to always say I want to work with more men too. So I work with women, with couples, and that makes me really happy. I've been doing that for like 2.5 years, and it's like the breakthroughs are so good instead of just working with one person, like, because you're affecting the relationship too. So I love that. And many times I have clients and she's like, would you mind talking? I'm like, listen. So then I started putting that on my website, because I'm like, I've been working with couples for a while and I never put it on my website. So I work with women, with couples, and young adults. And I've realized that a lot of clients, the younger ones, come to me at around 27. And I love those, because I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys, your generation took away the stigma of like mental health, and you guys are going all in for it. You don't want to suffer. You don't want to be burdened enduring. And I'm loving this. So they're kind of like working through their, like at 27, they're working through their, childhoods and stuff because of what they've seen on social media, heard on podcasts, and they want to process it before they get married or before they have kids, or if they're in the process of getting married. They just want to get it done. And I love that mindset, and I love that generation's epiphany, because man, that would have saved me. And
they're so smart. I mean, literally, Lisa has girls head. Like, they're so smart. Like, they're doing all of the things that I say I wish I would have done.
Right?
I mean, they're so much more in tune to so many things, like relationships and their health. I mean, I joke about, they drink more water than I think I did my entire childhood.
Right?
Oh, for sure.
I know. So like all of these things, and I'm like, oh, I love this. So,
yeah.
And then I work, a lot of women are like sort of midlife, like 40 to 50. And that's where things get wonky, because that's where like your toxic relationships catch up with you, your burnout from work, which is your relationship with your job and your career, catches up with you, kids, and educating, like
probably.
Right. Raising your kids, and what it's like, how can I be a mother, like mother that's not toxic, when my relationship with my mother is toxic? Well, I have no point of reference. So that's what brings a lot of people to this. Breakups, relationships, lots of relationships, important relationships, and between like 35 to 50. So again, they want to figure out what went wrong and do better and suffer less in the future and make better decisions. And I've worked with like CEOs, I've worked with TV producers, and then I've worked with stay-at-home moms. I try to make my fees accessible to all. And it because when I started out, I remember when I was in the thick of it and I was so unwell, I was looking on social media and there was like this coach something or other, and I set up a discovery call with her that was free. And during that call, she tells me that she was charging me $1,000 an hour, and if I don't have that sort of money, it means that I don't really want to heal, and I haven't manifested it. And that's like when I'm in the thick of it, of like pain and trying to like be functional on a daily basis. And I said, oh my gosh, if anybody ever feels this way, I cannot. If anybody ever feels like I do and then is put in that circumstance, I don't ever want anyone to ever feel like that. So that's why I'm flexible with my rates. And I've been able to work from, like I said, CEOs and TV producers to stay-at-home moms and young adults, like 25 to 27, who are just starting out in life. And I think that seeing these different ages and different careers and different upbringings, like in different stages of your life, it's helping, also healing me in a way, because it's like healing is possible. Like no matter where you're coming from, as long as there's a sense of agency and a willingness and a commitment to it, when you decide, and I love the name of your podcast, because you have to make that decision for yourself. Like I can't have a woman client be like, I want to bring my husband, he won't come on a call. Can you like say something, email him and tell him to come? I can't. He needs to make that decision. You have to be all in. It's a commitment. It's something where you decide to change your life when you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, and you want your future to look different. And the reason why you have to decide is because you are going to face moments where it's going to be difficult. Like healing is not smooth sailing. It's not, rainbows and unicorns. It's lots of sleepless nights, very humbling at times. It could be re-triggering because you have to process past things, and you need to stay the course, because the only way out is through. So unless you make that decision yourself and commit to it, you're going to quit so easily. Until you've had enough and you say, I will do whatever it takes so that I don't have to go through this again. That's the only thing that will get you through the hard work of it.
I don't feel like there's ever really an end to true healing. I feel like, just from experiences in my life, I feel like I've gone through some healing moments. Never a moment as harsh as what you went through, but have gone through some things in my life that I definitely needed healing from. And I feel like healing is like growth for maybe many of us. Maybe I'm incorrect, but to where I feel like I've healed areas that have really truly gotten better and have kept me feeling healthy and feeling good. And then when something else bubbles up, I work to heal that moment. But I don't know that we as humans will ever 100% be healed. Do you? Or what do you think on that, Anna Marie?
I don't think there's like a destination, like a mountaintop for us to reach. I've always believed that healing is being resilient. Like, because I didn't even know the words resilience, right, before all of this. So resilient means to be flexible with, you fall down and then you got to be able to get up again, and you have to have the tools. So the more you grow in your own self-respect, the more you grow in advocating for your own dignity, when others try to put you down, the more you grow your self-confidence, the more you grow your faith with God or a higher power. We have different backgrounds, whatever you believe in. Whenever you bring a concept of flexibility and adaptation through self-respect and through not betraying yourself, I think that prepares you for any hardship, because life is always going to suck. Like, if it's not your kids causing hardship, if it's not, I don't know, it's your neighbor, it's politics, it's your company that you work for. There's always going to be, it's being in traffic and somebody cutting you off, right? There's always going to be something that's going to be difficult. Difficult moments do not disappear. It's about how you get through those difficult moments, and you like completely break down and choose to unpack and live there. Or do you have an occasional breakdown here and there because sometimes life could be overwhelming, but now you know what you have to do and you decide not to unpack and live there.
And I think that's with so many things, right? I mean, I think we're saying that the journey of healing is just that, it's the journey, and the same thing with relationships and success and life, that there's never like a pinnacle moment where I think we say, I think it's the journey. And we try and tell our kids too, it's your reactions along the way, that affect how we are. And I don't remember, I was listening to it the other day, but it was talking about happiness, where happiness is actually, it's an emotion, but we get to choose how we react to that. So I love everything you're saying in terms of, it's the journey, but it's going to be the traffic jam, that I hit on the way to pick up from school, that I get to choose, that reaction too. I have to ask, where's your relationship with your dad now?
Oh boy.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
It has gone through, man, we've had good moments and then not so good. The difference is like my growth, because I think his trauma was so severe. It's really hard sorry, it just started storming here and the light shifted. Florida weather. But so his trauma is so severe and he never really sought help for it. That's another thing I wanted to say. Seeking help on the journey of healing is absolutely critical. Meaning not self-help, but co-help from others. Because I would not have been able to heal had I not have my team of like the psychotherapist, the naturopath, the medical doctor, the somatic body worker, and so on and so forth. So my dad doesn't seek any help. He has trust issues. He obviously, and like his mom died when he was 13. His dad was a military general. So you can imagine his upbringing and his emotional softness approach to life. So we've gone through good moments. We've gone through, falling out again. And I've just kind of realized to separate myself from, like, my worth does not depend on what he thinks of me, or if he understands that I'm healed, or if he's going to give me the perfect apology for what has happened. And because you tend to wait for that, like you kind of want the person who hurt you to apologize heartfelt from their heart and respect all of your boundaries and never do it again. That would be so idyllic and so perfect, but that literally takes two to tango, and they have to be involved heavily in their own healing journey to change their own behavior and to like rewire their, neuroplasticity, rewire their brain so that they can change their behavior. You can't change behavior without doing anything. You can't change behavior just by feeling a certain way. You need to act. You need felt experiences. So I've kind of separated myself from that outcome of needing him to do all those things in order for me to be okay. So I've just kind of like learned that things will be the way they are between me and him, and they're going to fluctuate, and I'm going to accept that. And I love him. He's my father, but I don't have to like be in constant relationship and best friends with him, because there's some things that we're just not compatible in.
Yeah. That makes so much sense. I hear your dog barking at the thunder. Your responses are incredible with all the storm and your dog and everything. I just absolutely love what you're sharing with us, and I feel like there's a deep sadness in so many people.
And the weather is reflecting the deep. When you ask the father question,
yeah,
it's dark outside and it's thundering, and it's reflecting the sadness of accepting that inconvenient truth that sometimes the people that cause the pain may not heal along with us at our speed and our wanting.
And in that sadness, it's almost like a realization that that's the way it's going to be in a lot of relationships. It's not going to ever be perfect again, maybe.
Yeah. And I asked for forgiveness if I asked a wrong question about your dad, but I think it's so powerful. I love that you said your worth does not depend on that. And there's so many people, I think, that, have family, I don't want to say issues, but, we don't choose our family. And I think it's a matter of accepting who they are and loving them for who they are. And I loved your answer. And I just was curious as to hopefully, your journey with your dad. So you're doing such amazing things in this world. And, we're just super grateful for people like you that are pouring into others and helping people understand, their healing and everything that comes along with it. You're doing amazing things. We love having you.
Thank you guys. And I love the work you're doing by bringing everyone together and having a regular conversation about this, because we're doing what these young kids are now doing. We're normalizing all of this and having girlfriend chats about it, because it's like, it's life. This is what it is.
Yeah.
It is. It's so important. And I want everyone to follow you on your Instagram and to look you up. And we're going to have all of your info in our show notes so that they can find you and reach out, because the one thing I love about our day to day is that they can reach you on the internet and be coached by you. Isn't that right? Anywhere they are?
Yeah. Oh, I work with everyone like all over, like Australia, Europe, South America. Yeah. So that's the beauty of it. Like it's endless.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Wow, I love it. And yeah, like I said, your Instagram is awesome. On another day, we're going to talk about mental health and perimenopause and all that kind of stuff. Right? I saw that and on your Instagram, and I was like, oh, we do not have enough time to hit that, but we will.
Oh no, we definitely have to talk about that, because it's true. You, like I said, you kind of like start figuring it out and realizing things and healing in like late 20s, 30s, and then all of a sudden perimenopause and menopause comes up, and you're like, dude, give me a minute. Can I catch my
Literally, when I saw that on your Instagram, I was like, "Oh, this is going to be great. We're gonna do this all day long." Wow, yes. So I know your Instagram is Anna Maria Life Coach. So we'll have all of that in the show notes for everyone to come follow you and everything. And we just want to say thank you. This has been, and again, from both of us, I know, like, thank you for sharing your story. I mean, I cannot imagine your childhood and your story, and just thank you for your vulnerability and honesty of sharing.
Thank you so much for holding space, for listening to my story. And I just want everyone out there listening that, you know what, the way we talk about this should be our approach to healing, because it is difficult, but normalizing it and befriending healing and the concept of healing is what like really makes it accessible and gives you that courage to decide to move into it.
Oh, so good.
Boom. Well, we know that we want you to befriend our new friend, Anna Maria, and we hope that you will share this podcast out and like it and do all of the things, because we know that there are many people in our own lives that need to hear the wise words of wisdom that we've got to have girlfriend chat today. So as always, thank you for joining in to the I Decide Darlings podcast, and we will see you soon.
See you soon.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
You've been listening to the I Decide Darlings podcast. If this podcast touched your heart, please share it with your friends and family right after you subscribe yourself. Don't forget to head over to iDecideBook.com and grab a copy of our favorite book and daily journal. As always, thank you for being here, and we can't wait for you to hear our next episode.